Welcome back to Fuel for Fathers. I'm Peter. So today's question, why do you have no energy left for your kids after work? Let's get into it. You walked through the door with nothing left in the tank. You weren't injured. You didn't run a marathon, but you've got nothing. And the worst part? Your kid just wants to play and you can barely get off the couch. That's not laziness. That's your brain running out of fuel in a very specific way. And once you understand the mechanism, it stops feeling like a personal failure. And so here's the situation. You leave for work in the morning with a full tank. And I don't just mean physically. Your brain has what you could think of as a limited daily budget for decision, self-control, and managing your reactions. Every single time you use it across the day, that budget gets drawn down. It doesn't matter whether the decision was big or small. Think about what actually happens in a working day. You make dozens of calls on the job. What order to do things, how to handle a problem that comes up, whether to push back on a client or let it go. You manage your reactions when things don't go to plan. You hold it together when someone's being difficult. You push through the afternoon when your body is telling you to stop. That's not just physical effort. That is sustained mental self-regulation hour after hour. Here's what's happening in your brain during all of this. There's a region at the front of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. That's your executive control center. It handles decision-making, emotional regulation, planning, impulse control, essentially every act of deliberate behavior. And this region runs on glucose. It requires real metabolic energy to function. When it's been working hard all day, the neural circuitry responsible for controlling your reactions and staying patient starts to lose efficiency. Not because you're weak, because it's been working continuously since 6 a.m. Research out of social psychology calls this decision fatigue. The core finding is straightforward. The more decisions and acts of self-control you make throughout a day, the worse your capacity becomes for each subsequent one. It's not linear. At some point, the curve drops off sharply. And for a bloke who's been managing a work site, running his own schedule, dealing with customers and holding his composure in difficult situations all day, that drop-off often lands right around the time he walks through his front door. And there's also something happening with cortisol, your primary stress hormone. It runs high during demanding work days. That's not necessarily a bad thing in the short term. Cortisol helps you stay alert and manage pressure. But when cortisol has been elevated for hours, it suppresses the prefrontal cortex ability to regulate your responses. The part of your brain that helps you stay patient, calm, and present gets quieter. What gets louder is the more reactive, automatic part of your brain, the part that just wants to sit down, not talk to anyone, and stare at a screen. This is why you might find yourself more irritable at home than you were all day at work. It's not that you care less, it's that the control system is depleted. At work, you had stakes. There were consequences for snapping. You kept a lid on it. By the time you get home to the place where you feel safe, the lid comes off, not because you don't care, but because the system that was holding it in place has run dry. Most blokes think this means they're a bad dad, that they're lazy, that they should just push through it, and that self-blame makes it worse, because now you've got guilt on top of exhaustion, and guilt is its own kind of cognitive load. Here's the thing. The research on this doesn't support the idea that it's a character flaw. It supports the idea that it's a physiological state. Your brain spent its daily budget keeping you functional, professional, and safe at work. By the time you're home, what's left is the baseline, stripped-back version of you. Lower tolerance, less patience, less capacity for imaginative play or emotional attunement. This doesn't mean there's nothing you can do about it. Like, one of the most practical things is to create what some researchers call a decompression gap, a period of low-demand transition between work and home, even 10 to 15 minutes before you walk in the door. Sit in the car, don't check your phone, don't run through the mental to-do list. Just let your nervous system start to down-regulate. The commute itself often isn't enough, because driving in traffic is still a demanding cognitive task. You need time with no inputs and no decisions. The second thing is to protect a physical moment, even a short walk when you get home. Movement after a sustained sitting period changes your cortisol clearance rate. It helps your body shift gears from the stress state you've been in all day to a more recovered state. It doesn't have to be a workout. A 10-minute walk around the block changes the chemistry enough to matter. And the third thing, and this one is simple, eat something with actual substance before you walk in the door. Your prefrontal cortex runs on glucose. When blood sugar is low after a physical day with an average lunch, your executive function takes a hit. It's not the whole story, but it's part of it. A decent snack before you arrive home keeps the brain functioning above its floor. None of these are big interventions. They're small buffers that protect what's left in the tank for the people at home. You're not broken. Your brain is doing exactly what a brain does after a long day of demanding work. The exhaustion you feel at the door isn't failure. It's evidence that you showed up fully all day. What matters is understanding the mechanism so you can build a small amount of structure around the transition, not to be superhuman, but just to have a bit more left for the people who matter most. Thanks to Father Fuel for sponsoring us, giving fathers energy when it matters most.